Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswati Ji.
Welcome everyone to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. I've been crying on and off for the past 4 days. I'm not really sure what's wrong. I feel like I don't belong, and I feel a sense of general emptiness. Well, first of all, crying is not always negative. We tend to have this objective view of crying as something must be wrong. Sometimes tears are there as tears of joy. Sometimes tears are there as tears of truth. When I first came to India, to Rishikesh, I cried constantly. They definitely were not sad tears. But they also weren't even happy tears. It wasn't a matter of, oh, I'm so happy, I'm crying in joy. They were just tears of the truth. Sometimes tears are just there to clean our vision. So I have a very, very deep faith in the divine, in the creator, in the planner. And as long as we've been given tears, they're supposed to be there. So I know, usually whenever you cry, especially here, somebody's going to come up to you and they're going to go, oh, Some very sweet Mataji will take her sari or her shawl and will, because it symbolizes something is wrong, but it doesn't always. And so the first aspect is don't immediately judge. You're crying. Your vision is being cleaned. Your windshield wipers are on, right? They're cleaning the windshield so that you can see. I frequently say a spiritual path, it's not always fun. Seeing the truth, living in the truth, it's not always fun. Because sometimes it requires us to see things that then, if we are committed to truth, require us to live in a way that may not be the way that we've lived before. It may not be the way that's the most fun. We may find ourselves with less time for the movies, with less of an interest in hanging out, mindlessly. And it may seem like we're having less fun. People may say, God, you're no fun anymore. But ultimately, what we gain is truth and clarity. And a life lived only looking for fun, the problem is you have to keep replenishing it because fun has a very short half-life. You have it right now and it dissipates very, very quickly. Truth has a very, very long half-life. It doesn't even really have a half-life at all. So that clarity, that truth, that light, which the tears very frequently are removing the obstacles to living into seeing. That's the stuff that really our life is made of. So first of all, don't worry about the tears. But then in terms of feeling like I don't belong. How many people here have ever felt like you don't belong somewhere where you were at that moment? Yeah? So pretty much all of us, and my guess is that it is all of us. But There's even a shyness of admitting that experience. And the reason for that is twofold. First of all, when I identify as the body, I don't belong most places because I am so individual. There really are no two alike. We know this. Our fingerprints, our irises, whatever they're using to scan us these days, everything is different. So if I need to belong based on this body, what's happened to me, my life, what I look like, there are going to be very few places I feel like I belong because everybody is so different. And belonging is usually rooted in a sense of feeling something similar. Oh yeah, this is my tribe. These are my people. Yeah, we're similar. But if it's rooted in my sense of body, and again, I don't mean just my height and weight. The body, of course, includes the brain, and therefore all of the patterns in my brain. It includes where I've been, what I do, what's happened to me. But if that's my marker, then I have a very, very small spectrum of places I'm going to feel like I belong. They must really be people who look like me, act like me, think like me, have had lives like I have. And that really limits us. But then here's what's interesting. When you connect deeply as the Spirit, then in a way you also don't really belong anywhere either. Because there's no hole into which you fit. If we think about the world as jigsaw puzzle pieces, if I'm identifying as the shape of my piece, well then there's only going to be a couple places I'm going to fit. But if I'm boundless and formless and the true expansiveness of who I am, I'm consciousness, I'm love, I'm spirit, I'm energy. Well then I don't exactly fit right here in this little piece either. And so then we find ourselves asking questions like, well, where exactly in the ocean does the wave belong? And the answer is everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. There's no right place for the wave to be, no wrong place for the wave to be. And yet when a wave comes up, you wouldn't say, oh yeah, you belong right exactly here. And this is really the pendulum swing. And what we find is that as we can identify as that wave in the ocean, that we really are the ocean. My favorite quote on this is Thich Nhat Hanh, who says, enlightenment is when the wave realizes it's the ocean. So when we realize as the wave, as the form, because just because we don't identify as the body doesn't mean that we ignore it. We have a body, we are a form, but it just isn't me. So yeah, if you're looking at a wave, there is a form, but which is the higher truth, wave or ocean? But if you're looking at a wave and somebody says, all right, you've got one word to describe the highest truth of what you're seeing, is it wave or is it ocean? It's ocean, right? The wave is momentary, constantly changing. Here, gone, here, gone. Even the molecules of water, if you watch a wave carefully, it's not even the same wave for more than a split second. So the higher truth is ocean. The more eternal truth is ocean. So who we are, if we can identify as ocean, then what you realize is we belong everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. But we stop looking to fit into that jigsaw puzzle. Because you're not going to. And all of those of us who have spent any time of our life trying to fit into a jigsaw puzzle, trying to adapt, the nooks and the crannies and the the curves and the openings and the holes in order to fit. We end up cheating ourselves and it never really works. You can squeeze yourself into a hole, but then you've squeezed yourself. So you may fit in the puzzle, but you don't fit in you. And so that doesn't solve anything either. And so the only answer is to realize how deeply you belong. Not to a place in a place, but you belong as consciousness, as love, as spirit, the way the waves belong to the ocean, as the ocean in the ocean. And you move through the world like that, which means as we move, we touch, we love. We bring, in that metaphor, wetness. Whatever we're identifying as, we bring consciousness, we bring love, we bring spirit, we bring energy. We bring our capital S self. But we don't have to squeeze it into a hole. And the last part of this is we're not then dependent upon people's reaction to us for a sense of belonging. Because again, if I'm squeezing myself into your reaction, I'm going to live my life as a ping pong ball. Because I need your approval over here, your approval over here, your approval over there. You want one thing from me, you want a different thing, you want a third thing. I'm going to constantly be squeezing and expanding and squeezing and changing who I am to fit into these different holes. Because I need you to accept me here, you to accept me here, you to accept me here. And what I lose is myself. And at the end of the day, I don't even have any idea who I am, because here I'm like this, and there I'm like this, and here I'm like that. And this is where belonging to yourself, your capital S self, belonging to yourself, is what's most important. And really, it's the only thing that you can do anyway. Because if I adapt to you, I've lost you. If I adapt to you, I've lost you. So we belong to our highest, truest self. Knowing that as consciousness, as love, as boundless, as truth, we're going to fit in the world and of the world. Not necessarily everyone's agenda. Not necessarily what everyone wants. But that's part of living connected to your truth. You cannot, if you haven't learned this lesson yet, it's a really good one to take home. You cannot make everyone happy with you. You cannot fit into what everybody wants. Because everybody wants different things. And so if that's your goal, if that's your agenda, you're going to constantly feel less than. You're going to constantly come up short. And again, you're going to lose yourself in the process. And so what you find is when you really belong to your capital S self as your capital S self, you fit the world. Like the ocean fits the world, and the waves fit the ocean, and they fit the beach. And there's no sense of lack of fitting. The ocean never says, oh, there's no room for this wave over here. Never a place it doesn't fit.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single...
Join us here on the holy banks of Mother Ganga, in the lap of the towering and beautiful Himalayas, for our annual International Yoga Festival, taking place from March 1st to March 7th every year. Come, join your global yoga family in a true union of yourself with your divine self. We look forward to welcoming you all. You can go to the website on www.internationalyogafestival, all one word, .org. Look forward to welcoming you all home to the banks of Mother Ganga.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. Is a silent mind nearer to God? Absolutely. Not from God's perspective, but from our perspective. It's like saying, are open eyes nearer to the light? Well, not from the light's perspective. The light is there whether your eyes are open or closed. But from your perspective and your ability to connect with the light, you have to open your eyes. Anybody who's ever played hide and seek with a young child knows that one of the things they do is, very young children, is they'll sit in the middle of a room and they'll close their eyes when they're the hider. Because in their mind, if they can't see you, you can't see them. And so you'll literally find kids who will just sit exactly where you left them, but their eyes are closed, and they're amazed by how did you find them? So, from that child's perspective, we are there regardless of whether their eyes are open or closed. But for them to interact with us, their eyes have to be open. There's no awareness of the world if the eyes are closed. And in the same way, in order to experience God, there has to be space for it. So in order to hear God, there has to be space. And when we speak about a silent mind, it doesn't just mean silent from sound. But in that silence, there tends to be a general sense of peace because, of course, that which steals most of our peace, going back to the last question, we might be upset about global warming. We might be upset about what's going on in the rest of the world. But for most people, not everyone, but for most people, that's not actually what keeps them awake at night. That's not actually what prevents us from digesting our food. What prevents us from sleeping or digesting our food is not what's happening to, women whose genitals are being mutilated tragically in Africa, or what's happening to people in so many parts of the world that we can't even imagine. But what keeps most of us up at night or able to eat our food is our colleague at work, who's mean to us, Or the neighbor who like always mows his lawn at 7 a.m. on Sunday morning. You know, I'm trying to sleep, and why does this guy, 7 a.m., Sunday mornings? That's the type of stuff that keeps most of us going. What did I ever do to him? You know what? And so a still mind, a quiet mind, into that space, if I've allowed my mind to become quiet, it's freed me. It's freed me from the stuff that fills me up, not just in the sense of my sound, literally, but in the sense of everything going on in my life. Because that becomes our life, that colleague, that boss, that neighbor, that in-law. That's the stuff that ruins most of our peace in our life. It's a rare person who's actually selfless and connected to the world enough to be kept up all night due to things that are happening thousands of miles away. They exist, but they're rare. For most of us, it really is just the silly nonsense stuff of our day-to-day life. And so when the mind becomes still, into that we're able to experience the divine. There's a great story of a man who decides he's ready for enlightenment. And he asks everyone, who's the guru who can give him enlightenment? And everyone sends him to this one guru on a mountain in a cave. And so he walks and he walks and he traverses the river and he climbs the mountain and he gets into the cave and he bows at the guru's feet. And he says, I'm ready for enlightenment. And the guru says, have a cup of tea. The man says, tea? I didn't come for tea. I came for enlightenment. I don't have time for tea. And the guru says, have a cup of tea. So what's the guy going to do, right? You know, he's not going to anger the guru. So the guru goes in the back, he prepares the tea, he comes back, and he starts to pour it into the cups. And he's pouring, and the cups are filling, and now the cups are overflowing, and now the tea is spilling out all over the floor. And the man says, stop, for God's sakes, the cups are full. They can't hold anymore. And the guru says, your mind is just like this cup. You're so full of who you think you are and what you think you've learned and what you think you need, that there's no room for me to give you anything. Just as there's no more room in this cup till you drink it. There's no room for me to give you anything till you empty yourself. So that still mind is the experience of an emptying of the self into which the divine can flow. It's there already. But we're so full. So yes, the still mind is very close to God. What I would say is God is close to all minds. But from the perspective of the inside looking out, the lowercase s self looking upon the capital S self, we can only experience it when our mind is still. When there's room, when there's space, when those curtains have been opened.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Join us here on the holy banks of Mother Ganga, in the lap of the towering and beautiful Himalayas, for our annual International Yoga Festival taking place from March 1st to March 7th every year. Come, join your global yoga family in a true union of yourself with your divine self. We look forward to welcoming you all. You can go to the website on www.internationalyogafestival, all one word, .org. Look forward to welcoming you all home to the banks of Mother Ganga.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. Is suffering really necessary? In theory, no. In practice, still no, but almost yes. And the reason is, it's important to draw a distinction between pain and suffering. The body experiences pain. If I fall down and I injure myself, I hurt a bone, I hurt a muscle, I cut myself, there's going to be a chemical and electrical reaction through my body that's going to register in my brain as pain. Nothing you can do about that. We even now know that actually what we call broken hearts, losing a loved one, due to divorce, due to death, due to other means of separation, sometimes actually gets processed in the brain as pain. So literally a broken heart is processed very similarly in our pain pathways as a broken leg or a broken arm. So when you feel like you've got a broken heart, that pain actually is very, very real. But suffering is much more of our response to pain. So I have fallen, I've injured myself, I've broken something, I've hurt something, something has happened. Pain is there. Suffering is the emotional component, my drama associated with the pain. Suffering is, why me? Oh my God, it's always me. Why does this always happen? The universe hates me. God hates me. Everybody hates me. I'm so clumsy. I'm so stupid. Whatever our internal drama may be. That's what triggers suffering. So is that optional? Again, in theory, yes. It is not a cascade of chemical reactions the way that pain is. But the reason that it's so difficult and the reason that so many of our spiritual paths speak about suffering as so core is as I identify as this body, then that which happens to it triggers an emotional response in me. I have a drama around it. I have an identity around it. I have a story around it. And therefore, I have an emotional reaction to it. I have fallen down. That's pain. But my emotional reaction to that, because I identify as this physical being, is, oh my God, you are so clumsy. You are so stupid. Look at these people. They're so graceful. You can't even walk down the stairs. Like, what is wrong with you? Why don't you? This is because I identify as the legs that just tripped and fell down. Someone says something, someone does something, or they don't say or do something that I wished they had said and done. I respond to that with suffering. Why are they being mean to me? Why don't they like me? Again, nobody likes me. I'm stupid. I'm the worst. I'm worthless. I can't even do this spiritual thing right. Look, here I am in a spiritual place and still nobody likes me. It's, right? So that's our stories. That's because I've identified as this body. What it looks like, what it can do, what it can't do so well. So there are things that our bodies can do and can't do. Some things that other people's bodies can do and can't do. But when we judge, when we compare, when we criticize, we suffer. So is suffering necessary? No. But in order to remove it from my life, what I have to remove is this identification with the physical body. So if this physical body is not earning as much money per hour as the physical body next to me, or this physical body is not as in alignment with what our culture today has determined is beautiful compared to what it determined last year or 10 years ago was beautiful, that I don't identify as that. That I don't identify as the one who is less worthy, less beautiful, less appealing, less intelligent. This body didn't write the answers to an exam the way that body wrote the answers to the exam. I'm stupid. So I identify as that. As long as I identify as that, I'm going to suffer. Because in that identification is always, always fallibility. I could practice singing every day of the rest of my life. I will never sing like Mataji on the banks of Ganga. I could practice playing basketball every day for the rest of my life. I will never be able to play professional basketball. I could practice skiing every day for the rest of my life, and I would never be able to do what these people I saw on the Olympics and the airplane over were doing. But if I judge myself as the body who can't do that, I'm going to suffer. And this is where the only answer to suffering is to identify as the spirit. To identify, it's not that we negate the body, but I have a body rather than I am a body. And so I'm not the one who has done these things. I'm not the one to whom these things have happened. I'm not my height. I'm not my weight. I'm not my income. I'm the spirit. I'm consciousness. I'm love. I'm whatever term we use, divinity, God. Different ways of describing the same experience. Body keeps changing. All aspects of it keep changing. If I can identify as the soul, as the spirit, as love, as consciousness, that's when we're able to remove suffering from our lives. Because then what people are saying or doing, exam results, income imbalances, our histories, our identities, suddenly that That is not who I am. If that's who I am, then yeah, I'm going to suffer. But if it's not who I am, and I realize that who I am is infinite and boundless and pure and perfect and the same as the divine, then there is no suffering. There still may be pain. Have a body, break a leg, still pain. But the drama that leads to suffering doesn't go with it.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. Does multitasking mean not being present? You know, it's great actually, because the point of spiritual philosophy is not just so that we have something we can memorize and share with others and have other people be really impressed by, you know, how many different words we know or how many different terms we know or how many different philosophers or commentators we can quote from or how many different books we can quote from. But ultimately the point is, how can I actually take this in my life? How can this change me? This is the difference between a spiritual practice and an academic exercise. You know, even if you look at the Jnana Yoga stream of spirituality, so the stream focused on knowledge, wisdom, it's still knowledge and wisdom that goes in. Knowledge and wisdom that actually changes who you are. It's not knowledge for knowledge's sake. It's not knowledge for giving it back on an exam's sake or knowledge for impressing others' sake. It's knowledge so that my life changes. It's the knowledge of, that's actually not a monster on a hanger. I mean, that's actually not a monster in my closet. That's a jacket on a hanger. Or the knowledge of, that's not a snake, it's a rope. You know, yes, it's a piece of information. The light got turned on. I learned, no monster, jacket on a hanger. But it was knowledge that transformed me. Suddenly I was no longer afraid of the dark. Suddenly I realized what it was. So I preface the question with that because, yeah, a lot of times we get questions that are really in the nitty-gritty of daily life. Like we talk about being present. Well, How many of us multitask? I know I do. I mean, has anybody ever done more than one thing at a time? Right? Has anybody actually done only one thing at a time? These days we always do more than one thing. And so these questions come up that may seem very, very mundane, very not the spiritual philosophy that one would think. And yet, this is actually the stuff that changes us. This is actually the stuff that helps us know how to live. So, being present and multitasking, well, being present actually has nothing to do with what you do. I'm going to repeat that because it's really important. Being present has nothing to do with what you do and everything to do with how you do it and who is doing it. So I could be drinking this glass of water. Take one action. Well, I could be talking to you and not really paying much attention as I'm drinking and it's spilling, right, down my mouth and on my clothes. I did that on purpose. Because that's one way of drinking, right? I'm not paying attention. I'm not there. I'm focused on talking to you, and so I'm kind of drinking, and it spilled down my shawl. That's one way of drinking. Another way of drinking, even while I'm talking to you, is mindfully. I can have my mind there. I can be aware of what I'm doing. I can feel the way the glass feels in my hands. I can feel the way the water feels in my mouth. I can be present with the water at the same time that I'm speaking to you. So it's not actually about what we're doing. You can be mindless while you do nothing. Really, doing nothing does not mean you're going to be mindful. Doing nothing does not mean you're going to be able to be present. You could sit on your couch, eyes open, eyes closed, whatever you prefer, and your mind still goes. The mind is in yesterday, the mind is in tomorrow, the mind is in my childhood, the mind is in my future, the mind is in what someone else is doing right now. The mind is all over the place. The mind is judging the couch I'm sitting on. All of it. I'm not present. I'm not even doing anything. I'm just sitting there. But I'm still not present. Or I could actually be doing lots of things. Talking to you, drinking water, walking. We could turn this into an exercise. There's not a lot of room in here, but we really could turn it into an exercise. How many things can you do? Can you pat your head, rub your stomach? How much can you do and stay present? And the truth is, there's actually no limit. And a very interesting thing happens. I'll share a personal experience of this. My yoga teacher, my asana teacher, actually he was a full yoga teacher, but he taught yoga through asanas in San Francisco, from whom I studied before I came to India, before I knew anything about spiritual India. Before I was a meditator, before I knew that yoga meant union, before I knew anything. And he's an Iyengar yoga teacher, and the top one in the world. And his classes are intense. Very, very intense. And he's talking in his class about your metacarpals and your metatarsals and the back of your hand, your femur and your elbow and your hand. And he's got you in every different part of your body simultaneously. You're focusing on your, outer inner knee and your outer inner, heel and whatever it is. And this is what he does for 90 minutes or 2 hours. And before I came to India, before I started meditating, I just knew this is yoga class. And then I came to India and I started seeing other yoga classes that were much more focused on the spiritual side, the being present side. And I thought, oh, okay, so I guess his was only focused on the body. Until something very interesting happened. He actually came here to International Yoga Festival several years ago. And I had an opportunity to take a class from him again. Having been in India for 12, 13, 14 years by that point, having done a lot of meditation, having done a lot of spiritual practice, and his class was exactly the same. Your heel, your ankle, your knee, your shoulder, your this. So many things that you think, I cannot possibly hold this in my mind at the same time. And at the end of class, having fully concentrated on what he was telling me, fully concentrated, my knee, my elbow, my shoulder, not my inner divinity, not my chakras, not the things that you think if I were focused on them, then I would have a spiritual experience. And his class finished, and I realized, oh my God, my mind actually feels exactly the same after doing this for 90 minutes as it does after I meditate. And I went up to him and I said, okay, Manuso, something amazing has happened. You've pulled me. Usually I try to stay present with my divinity, with my consciousness, with all of these things that feel very spiritual to me. I try to stay present with those regardless of what I'm doing. You pulled me out of that for 90 minutes. There was no room left in my brain to think about anything other than all the parts of my body that you had me working simultaneously. And yet, my brain feels exactly the same way that it does in the stillness, in the spaciousness, as it does after I've been meditating. And he gave me this smile and he said, I'm so glad that you finally realized it. And I share that particular story because his classes are really the epitome of multitasking. There is no way that in any part of the rest of my day, regardless of how many things may be going on simultaneously, how many phones may be ringing, how many projects, how much work, how many people, there is not as many things going on simultaneously as he has got you doing in your brain in that class. But here's what's interesting about it. And here's how he explained it later. He said, by actually sincerely bringing your attention to all of those things, by being present with all of those things, not by letting your brain say, oh my God, I can't do this and can't be present to this. By really doing it, you become so present in you that stillness comes. And so, yes, in multitasking, we absolutely can and should be present. Simply doing something or doing 10 things should have no impact on our ability to be present with them. What ends up happening is my mind is still going. It's my mind that pulls me out of presence. And so the more I do, the more I have to think about. But interestingly, if you're really honest with yourself, thinking about what you're doing is not that which pulls us out of presence. So pumping gas, driving a car, typing a letter, cooking dinner, adding up figures. Doesn't matter what you may be doing. Straightening your leg, extending your arm. It doesn't, whatever you're doing. If you're actually there with that, you're present and you're still, even if that's one of 5 different things. That which pulls us out of it is the brain that says, oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this. Oh my God, why am I always the one doing this? Why don't other people also pick up their workload? Or, oh my God, this is, a monkey could do this. Or the opposite, this is way too hard. Who in their right mind thought that I was up to this task? Or there's no point doing this. I'm not going to get any credit for it anyway because he always takes credit for the work that I do. And it doesn't matter how hard I work and how well I do it. At the end of the day, he's going to get the credit. That's the stuff that pulls us out of being present. Not the work. Not the tasks. So whether you're doing nothing, one thing, or 10 things, if you're present with it, meaning with you who's doing it, not just the body that's doing it, but who's the being that's flowing through the doingness, you experience that state of presence. So it's not about how much, how many. It's about who's doing it. Pujya Swamiji shares very frequently. He says people think that leaving everything behind and going and meditating in a cave will bring you peace. He says no. Because your mind goes with you. And so even though the body has now gone to a cave and has sat down and there's no one around, the mind is still there. And the mind is still playing the same games, doing the same stuff that it does everywhere. And so instead of it being about, the guy in the next cubicle, it's about the guy in the next cave. Instead of it being about, the boss who's against you because of whatever, now it's about, God who's against you because look, it rained and now your cave is wet or, whatever. But the mind plays the same games. And so we're sitting in an office or in a school or wherever you work or study, the mind says, I'm stupid, I'm worthless, I can't do this, Well, sitting in a cave trying to meditate, the mind says, I'm worthless, I'm stupid, I still can't do this. Oh my God, I can't even meditate, can't even do spirituality. I'm a failure here too. It's all the mind. And this is why, you think about it, if you were a Siamese twin, if you literally had another being, a separate being, glued to you, 24/7. Wouldn't it make sense to make friends with it? Wouldn't it make sense to stop trying to outrun it? To stop trying to figure out how to lose it along the way? That if you could just, escape in the middle of the night and go to Tahiti, your Siamese twin wouldn't realize you'd gone. Well, they're glued to you. They're going to be on the plane to Tahiti with you. So you might as well just turn around and look at them and, all right, so here we are, glued together. Let's figure this out. And that's really what the mind is. It's with you. It's with you 24/7. There's nowhere you can go. There's nowhere you can run. There's nothing you can do that it's not there. And so there's no better time than now to turn around and look at it and say, all right, so here we are in this together. How can we do this? I need you to be still. I need you to stop kicking me in bed or I can't sleep. What if you rolled over that way? Could we do this peacefully? What about if I loved you? Right, all right, you can't rule over that. Well, what if instead I actually wrapped my arms around you? Well, there, look at that. It keeps you from kicking me. So, the mind is the problem. And therefore, the mind is the solution. And whatever you think you're going to do, wherever you think you're going to go, that you're going to outrun it, I promise you it doesn't work. This is what people have been trying to do with drugs, with alcohol, with sex, with relationships, with everything forever. And we always come back to the self. Back to meditation. Back to contemplation. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week. And I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.